guess what I'm doing? Any livestock farmer knows that with livestock and animals comes manure. It's time to clean out the chicken coop. I'm not going to keep this phone on while I'm doing it because it's gross and it's boring and it's hot and it's very boring. But they're ready. They're ready. I got to collect the eggs first. So we have egg box. It's 2-level egg box. And we have another one. Now this was a mobile egg box that the people before us had, and we just put it in here. We do have more chickens than they had, and we just increased the egg box size. Roosts. These chickens, they roost on everything in here. So there is manure everywhere. That's Jay. Say hi, Jay. He's a good rooster. He's an Ohio Buckeye Red. That's a heritage breed. We have a flock of Ohio Buckeye Reds that we got with the farm. If you're looking for an egg producer, these birds aren't it. They produce an egg once every 3 days. These that we have are a few years old, and they're just not doing it anymore. So I'm gonna make them stewing hens when it's time to process the meat birds. We do have silkies. I have one leghorn, buff Orpingtons. They're like the big butterscotch birds, and I have ISA browns. The ISA browns are really good layers. We got them last September, October, and they produce an egg a day per chicken, and they're going strong. So when I went to the big box store and I got chickens for $1, I got all ISA browns as far as layers. So we're gonna start rotating our chickens out, and that's a responsible thing to do. And coming from a production standpoint, if you have an animal that's not producing for you, and historically they'd put them in the pot, and guess what? That's what we're gonna do, and we're gonna sell them. And I think I made mention before that's what we're gonna do. So my coop. Oh, look at my coop. Isn't that cool? So this was it's a historical building actually. It was part of Camp Mueller, which is down the road from me. And Camp Mueller was a camp for inner city kids back in the early 1900s through the 60s and 70s and 80s. And they were redoing the camp, and the people before us saw these cabins. This is a cabin. They saw these cabins going down the road, and they flagged the guy down and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And the guy said, "We're throwing them away. We're going to burn them." So they actually snagged one. Now, my coop, they turned it into a chicken coop, and now it's the chicken cabin. It actually works really nice, you know. When doing anything with chickens, and if you got predators around, which we do, coyotes, possums, raccoons, we're right up against the national park, and it's pretty thick back there, so we have a lot of predation. If you have any openings or windows or anything like that and you want to keep the animals in, use hardware cloth. This medium size, the smaller size squares, the better. That keeps their little grubby hands from getting your chickens. Now, we do have a fenced-in area. We have a big chicken run. Bigger than the chickens that we have. You can't see it because it's all overgrown, but we do that for cover, hawks and all that sort of thing. But, and I don't even close the door half the time. They're out in the yard, they're eating bugs, they're doing chicken things. So, you know, that point is kind of moot. When I do close it, they like to hop over, and pointless. So, but they do go in at night, and I just lock them up. So keep that in mind. We're gonna do some manure, clean that out. I brought over the poo flinger. The poo flinger 1912. I know that's not the correct terminology, but I'm pretty sure this is built in 1912, and it has 1950s Jeep tires on it. See that? See how rusty it is and old? So I went through, you know, greased the links and all that kind of stuff. It works just fine. So this is old technology, but it works. It's ground driven, so I can pull it behind a horse, which I do not do because I can't afford a horse. Horses are more expensive than cars or tractors. So yeah, it works for us, and that's what I'm going to do. And I just take garbage cans out, fill that, put it in the poo flinger, take it out to the field, and I put it on hot. Like I said, we're not putting it on any kind of crops that we're going to eat. It's mostly there for the grass, and it's got high phosphorus, nitrogen. We do use pine shavings. People get crazy. You know, I love composting, so if I was going to use that compost on, say, like the flowers or the tomatoes, I wouldn't. I'd let it compost. But going on grass and as far as weed control, it seems like it's keeping the weeds down. So it might be wrong, but like I said before, this is not an instructional video. This is just what we do. So I'm going to sign off, and I will see you guys next time. But thank you for watching, and I hope you continue to watch, and I hope I can keep making these things. All right. I just thought of something. If you're watching this and you don't have chickens, or you never had chickens, a lot of times they're going to sit on the eggs if they're broody, or if they're laying and they'll sit on top of other eggs. What I found out, and that happens, you're going to get pecked. You either take the peck, or I got a little trick. Every person that has chickens or has a farm, I recommend not only having a knife, but having a hat. A, it protects you from the sun, and it protects you from crazy chickens. Put the hat on top of the chicken, reach under there, and grab the eggs. Make sure she has it on there. Hey! That's pork chop going for the eggs. Pork chop's gonna get eaten. So, that's an old trick I heard from my uncle. He said, always make sure you have a hat. And at the very least, if you don't have an egg basket, you can put the eggs in your hat. Just a good tip. Another random thing. As I'm doing this, shoveling it out, you know, it's a wood floor. I didn't talk about our layer feed. I get it from the Amish producer, and that's out of Oroville, Ohio, down there. Kidron. If anybody's from Ohio, they know Sumner's feed. They're really good. But for the egg producers, the hens and the roosters, I give them a 15% protein feed. That's reduced down from the 20 that I give the meat birds or the baby chicks. I like a higher protein count to get them bigger, faster, but then lowered down when they start producing eggs. But with the feed that I give the egg producers, I like a higher calcium content. And the calcium, I think, makes for a harder eggshell. Not 100% of the chicks have a hard egg all the time, but overall, a higher calcium content, I think, in my experience, like I said, not a how-to, makes for a harder shell. I do not feed them oyster shells. I don't do that. Excuse me, stinky. What was I saying? Oh, calcium. Yeah, I don't give them calcium oyster shells. I don't think they need it. I get the calcium in the food, and what they eat is what they're gonna produce. Look at that. I gotta shave that. Anyway, yeah. Okay. Random thought. Yep. Another one. Anybody familiar with old school poo flingers? Manure spreaders. So it's old school. It's ground driven, but it pulls these chains, and the chains makes the manure go back to the poo finger flingers. Poo flinger fingers. I heard some other guy said that, and I'm gonna roll with it, and I thought it was funny. Whoop. I believe his name was Andy was his name. He said that, and I thought it was hilarious, so I'm running with it. Ground driven. This tire is a ground driven ride. Ground driven tire. Hopefully you can see this, but there is a gear here that rotates the chain, and when you engage the chain, that chain comes around, moves the inside conveyor, pulls it back, spins the poo finger flingers, and it comes back here and it spins this, and that's the spreader. So it's all contained. To engage it, we have these old school arms here. When I first used this arm right here, that little metal thing broke. And being ingenuitive and trying to save a buck, I made a new one. This is 14 gauge fence wire and crimps. works just fine. So, yeah. Random thought. I'm probably gonna have a lot of those, and maybe this is what the videos are gonna be like, my random thoughts. Like I said, livestock farmers got a little bit of crazy. All right. Pro tip. I keep the feed in a trash can inside the coop. That way it keeps little critters from being a little over curious and trying to eat the food. Originally, we used to keep the feed in a watertight container outside of the coop. Critters would burrow through it and eat it. I feel like keeping the feed closed in a container inside the coop helps out a lot. Other thing I want to talk about, the egg. I just picked eggs before I cleaned the coop, which it's clean now. Smells a lot better. The egg is probably one of the world's best containers. As Americans, we like to see eggs in containers, clean and refrigerated. In our home, for us, in our consumption, we leave them out on the counter. If you wash an egg, there's a membrane on the outside of the egg, and that keeps air from going in, and it keeps all the good inside stuff in, and it keeps all the outside stuff out. When you wash the eggs, it gets rid of that membrane, and then that's when you have spoilage. I'm not saying you could keep an egg out for months and months and months, but two weeks on the counter unwashed, it's fine. Eggs don't last that long in our house. But for sale, what we do, we bring them in, we wash them, put them in containers, and put them in the fridge. If you do wash your eggs, make sure you are putting them in the refrigerator, because that membrane is gone and there's nothing there to protect it. Lovely basket. Very nice. We get about 2 to 3 dozen eggs a day. Well, there's people that are standing. I'm talking to myself. Where's I going? Oh yeah, eggs. They're awesome. They're an awesome thing. Embryos. I don't know what you want to call them, but yeah, in Europe they sell eggs uncleaned in containers, flats, and a lot of times there's feathers and poop and all sorts of stuff on them, but they don't wash them, they don't refrigerate them, they just leave them out. That's the old school way of doing things. If I did that here, nobody would buy them. It's just one of them food things that people get a little crazy about. They don't want to see that kind of stuff, so we don't do that. We clean it and we put it in and we market it as they expect it. Now, we do have chickens that make brown eggs. When you go to a farm and you buy eggs, you want brown eggs. You don't want white eggs. Same thing. I will say, with the nutrition that my hens get, they're a lot different eggs than you can get at the grocery store. We do feed them grain, but for the most part, they are free range in our yard. They're everywhere all the time. If you're a clean freak, I don't recommend doing that, because they poop on they manure on everything. We got to spray off all the surfaces all the time, and it's kind of gross, but I feel like it's a better life for the chickens, and it's what I'm about for our animals, a better life. So yeah, I'm gonna go spread this manure on the field, so I'll see you later. We have to stock our fridge that is on our produce stand every day with our eggs. Eggs are one of our biggest sellers. The chickens are free range, like you've seen, and people go bananas over the eggs. So we sell close to 20 plus, 20 to 25 dozen a week. So that's great. I love chickens, and we get the eggs, and usually it's the boys' job to go out and get the eggs, and Melissa comes home when she goes inside and she cleans them, and then I'll bring them across. We'll put them in the fridge. The fridge that you're in right now, we had to buy to store our eggs. We had too many. I was putting them in the basement in coolers, and that wasn't working, so we bought a fridge, and we keep it in the barn just to keep it cool. You guys are just chilling there, huh? Alright, so this is our egg fridge. Sometimes I laugh at myself. Yeah, just chill. It's cool. I'll do all the work here.